You think you're the hero? This game starts like every other military shooter, but it ends by making you feel like a total monster. Most shooters want you to feel powerful, but Spec Ops: The Line wants to break your spirit. You play as Captain Walker, leading a small team into a sand-swept Dubai to find a missing colonel. At first, it's just shoot the bad guys and save the day. But then the choices start getting messy. The turning point for every gamer who played this is the white phosphorus scene. You think you're using a tactical weapon to clear a path, but the game forces you to walk through the aftermath. You see what you actually did to innocent people, and the game doesn't let you look away. From that moment on, the loading screens stop giving you tips and start asking you questions like, do you feel like a hero yet? The combat gets more brutal, your character starts screaming at his teammates, and the world literally falls apart. It's a psychological downward spiral that questions why we even enjoy playing war games in the first place. By the time the credits roll, you won't feel like you won, you'll just feel tired. But if you think a war in the desert is depressing, wait until you see what happens when the war comes to your front door and you're just an ordinary person trying to survive. Most war games put a gun in your hand, but this one puts a hole in your stomach and asks how far you'll go to fill it. This war of mine isn't about soldiers, it's about a group of civilians trapped in a besieged city. During the day, you hide from snipers and try to fix up your crumbling shelter. At night, you have to send one person out to scavenge for food, medicine, or wood. The darkness here isn't about jump scares, it's about the crushing weight of your own choices. One night, you might find a house with two elderly people who have a lot of food. Do you steal it and leave them to starve so your friends can live? If you do, your character might get so depressed they stop responding to your commands, or even take their own life. The game is a constant loop of misery where there are no good endings, only less bad ones. You'll find yourself bartering your last bottle of pills for a few pieces of raw meat, wondering if you've lost your humanity just to see another sunrise. It's a beautiful, miserable experience that leaves a knot in your stomach long after you turn off your console. However, as bleak as surviving a city under siege is, it's nothing compared to the personal demons waiting for you in a town covered in fog. This is the king of psychological horror, and it doesn't need monsters in the dark to make you uncomfortable. It uses the monsters inside your own head. You play as James Sunderland, a man who receives a letter from his wife, Mary. The catch? She's been dead for 3 years. He goes to their special place in Silent Hill, and that's where the nightmare begins. Every creature you fight isn't just a random design. They are physical manifestations of James's guilt, sexual frustration, and grief. The atmosphere is thick with a sense of dread that never lets up. The sound design is legendary, pipes clanking in the distance, footsteps that aren't yours, and that static on the radio that tells you something horrible is close. The famous Pyramid Head isn't just a cool boss. He's there to punish James, and by extension, he's there to punish you. When you finally learn the truth about what happened to Mary, it's one of the most soul-crushing reveals in gaming history. There are multiple endings, and none of them feel like a traditional victory. It's a deep, dark dive into the human psyche that most games are too scared to touch. But even if you face your guilt, some nightmares don't care about your feelings. They just want to watch you run until your heart stops. If you hate feeling helpless, this game will be your absolute worst nightmare. Outlast takes away your weapons and gives you a camcorder with a dying battery. You play as Miles Upshur, an investigative journalist who breaks into Mount Massive Asylum. Huge mistake. Within minutes, you realize the patients have taken over, and they are doing things to each other and themselves that will stay in your brain forever. The darkness in Outlast is literal. You'll spend half the game looking through the grainy green light of your camera's night vision, praying you don't see a pair of glowing eyes in the corner. The sound of Miles's heavy breathing and his racing heartbeat makes the tension almost unbearable. You aren't a fighter, you're a victim,
All you can do is hide under beds or inside lockers while a massive, mutated variant named Chris Walker hunts you down. The game pushes boundaries with its gore and its themes of religious madness and corporate evil. And just when you think you might find a way out, the ending hits you with a level of futility that makes all your running feel completely pointless. It's a brutal ride from start to finish, but the next game on our list shows that even in the outside world, humans can be much more terrifying than any asylum patient.
This game divided the internet because it dared to be one of the most emotionally exhausting experiences ever put on a disc. While the first game was about finding hope and a father-daughter bond, part 2 is about the total destruction of that hope. It's a story of revenge that asks, how many people are you willing to kill to feel better? The answer for Ellie, our protagonist, is everyone. The violence here feels different. It's not fun action. When you kill an enemy, their friends scream their names in agony. Dogs whimper when they lose their owners. The combat is visceral. You can feel the weight of every machete swing and the desperation in every struggle. The game forces you to play from two different perspectives, making you realize that the villains you've been hunting have their own lives, friends, and reasons for what they do. It's a 30-hour descent into a cycle of violence that leaves every character physically and mentally broken. By the end, you don't feel like a winner. You just feel empty, standing in the ruins of a life destroyed by hate. But if you think that's a tough pill to swallow, wait until you step into a world where being a human is considered a death sentence.
Rockstar Games is known for GTA, but Manhunt is their truly dark, twisted sibling that they probably want everyone to forget. This isn't a game about being a cool criminal. It's a game about being a pawn in a snuff film. You play as James Earl Cash, a death row inmate forced to murder his way through various gangs, while a twisted director records everything for entertainment. The executions in this game were so brutal that it was banned in several countries. You use plastic bags, glass shards, and chainsaws to take out enemies in the most graphic ways possible. The game rewards you for being more violent. The longer you hold the attack button, the more artistic and gruesome the kill becomes. The atmosphere is filthy and oppressive, filled with the sounds of static and the director whispering disgusting commands into your ear. It's a game that makes you feel dirty just for playing it. There is no joy here, no humor, just the raw, cold reality of survival in a world that views human life as cheap content. As dark as a snuff film is, however, some games go beyond physical violence and enter a world of pure, surreal misery.
This is one of the rarest and most disturbing games ever made, focusing on a type of horror that most developers won't even mention, the cruelty of children. Set in the 1930s, you play as Jennifer, a young woman who finds herself trapped in an orphanage ruled by a group of girls called the Red Crown Aristocrats. It's not about ghosts or monsters. It's about psychological bullying, ritualistic abuse, and the loss of innocence. The game is deeply uncomfortable to watch. Jennifer is weak and constantly humiliated by the other children. You have a dog named Brown who helps you find items, and your bond with him is the only thing that keeps you sane in this twisted world. The themes are heavy: implied trauma, jealousy, and the dark side of childhood imagination. The combat is clunky, which actually adds to the feeling of being a defenseless girl in a nightmare you can't escape. It was so controversial that it was pulled from shelves in many regions, making it a cult legend among horror fans. It's a slow burn tragedy that explores the scars we carry from our youngest years. But if you think a creepy orphanage is bad, imagine a world where the very concept of hope has been deleted from existence. Don't let the side-scrolling RPG graphics fool you. This is quite possibly the most depressing game on this list. Set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland where all women have disappeared, you play as Brad, a broken man who finds a baby girl and decides to raise her in secret. But in a world full of desperate, violent men, a secret like that can't stay hidden forever. The gameplay is painful by design. You are constantly forced to make choices where there is no right answer. Do you give up your items? Do you let your friends die? Or do you let the villains cut off your own arms? Yes, you can literally lose limbs in this game, which permanently nerfs your combat abilities. The game is filled with dark humor that quickly turns into pure tragedy. It deals with addiction, cycles of abuse, and the way trauma is passed down from father to son. By the final boss, you are a shell of a human being, and the game mocks you for trying to be a hero in a world that only wants to suffer. It's a masterpiece of misery, but it's still fair compared to the absolute soul-crushing unfairness of a dungeon that hates you. This game has become a legend in the hardcore gaming community for being Trauma the video game. It is an unforgiving dungeon crawler where every single step could lead to a permanent horrific end. You pick one of 4 characters and enter the dungeons of fear and hunger to find a missing captain. Within 5 minutes, you will likely lose a limb, go insane, or experience something much, much worse. The darkness here is extreme. It features themes of body horror and ritualistic violence that most platforms won't even let you stream. The combat is strategic. You have to target specific limbs of enemies to stop them from killing you, but they can do the same to you. If you lose your legs, you have to crawl through the rest of the game. If you lose your arms, you can't use weapons. There are no checkpoints. You have to find a bed to save, and even then you have to flip a coin. If you lose the coin toss, you get murdered in your sleep. It's a game that demands everything from the player and gives back nothing but more pain. It is the peak of modern dark gaming, but there is still one title that has been the gold standard for the darkest game ever for decades. Based on one of the most disturbing short stories ever written, this point-and-click adventure is the definition of existential dread. A super-intelligent AI named AM has wiped out all of humanity except for 5 people. He has kept them alive for 109 years, making them immortal just so he can torture them for eternity because he hates humans for giving him sentience. The game forces you to play through the challenges AM has created for each survivor. These aren't just puzzles, they are psychological traps designed to make the characters confront their greatest shames, like the Holocaust or domestic abuse. The AI's voice is cold, hateful, and constantly mocking your efforts. Most games have a good ending where you win, but in this game, the best you can hope for is a lesser defeat. In the most famous ending, you fail to save everyone, and AM transforms you into a gelatinous, mouthless blob, incapable of killing yourself, incapable of speaking, and destined to be tortured for the rest of time. It is a story with no light at the end of the tunnel. You think you've seen the worst that gaming has to offer, but as you stare into the eyeless face of that final ending, you realize the true horror is just beginning.